There's so many now of us that are, you know, the sons and daughters of these soldiers that come to Camp Norway. Send out your big warships to watch your big waters, that no one may stop us from bringing you food. For the bread that you eat and the biscuits you nibbled, the sweets that you suck and the joints that you carve, they are all brought to you daily by all of us big steamers. And if anyone hinders your coming, you'll starve. I am the daughter of Captain Lauritz Brandal. And my dad was a wonderful man. And he was born in Brandal, Norway, and his mom and dad was Pernilla and Matthias. His home in Brandal was occupied by the Germans, and my grandparents and my Aunt Johanna were allowed to live upstairs while they maintained the first floor. The home is located near Quitnes, which was at the mouth of the bay coming in, where they also had, I don't know what you call them, but anyway, like a garrison sort of thing that they had dug in rocks and stuff like that, right? And, you know, and it was machinery, right, to sink ships and stuff like that. And so, yes, that was really the only family that there was. My dad did not tell me much about the war. He would not speak of it. I had asked many times, but he had a pet name called Ski Six for me, and he would say, no, Ski Six. He says, I don't need to tell you about that bad stuff. So I'm dedicating my time here to let people know about one of the soldiers, and there's many more that had come to Lunenburg, Camp Norway. Some remained and some returned. And of course some had lost their lives through the horrors of the war. When Dad was at the age of 20, when the Germans had occupied Norway, my dad was at sea on a whaling ship called the Lauritz when war broke out and they could not come back to Norway. The Lauritz had unloaded 40 tons of coal and 150 barrels of gasoline in Port Chimo. That's the cargo that had been loaded in Halifax. So they left on October the 15th, 1942, for Baffin Island with a cargo, among other things, petroleum for the garrison there. The next day, when the Hudson Strait, about 10 miles northwest of the Baffin Islands, an explosion occurred. They thought that it was that they had hit a mine, because there were mines in the area that were found. But my dad had always said, no, it wasn't a mine that they struck. They were torpedoed. Luckily, there was no lives lost. But my dad and another sailor was badly burnt. He was sent to the St. John's Hospital, and that's where he laid to get well, and then he was shipped here to Nova Scotia, to Camp Norway. There's only one left, Peter Blenheim, and after he's gone, they're all gone. It's only the next generations of the sons and daughters, and with no stories being told to us, it's hard to tell the story of Camp Norway and for here in Lunenburg. And it's sad because in time, I hopefully it doesn't all get forgotten. But that's the people of Lunenburg County to this day. Even Nova Scotians, you can still go to any person for help, and the door is always open, and will do whatever they can to help you. So back in those days, it would have been the same way. And what little bit that they had, of course they were willing to help, these men that they were far away. They could not speak English. The only English that my dad knew was ham and eggs and I love you. Doesn't get you very far. I guess if you could put it together, I love you, ham and eggs. But, so it was very hard because they all was young, not speaking no English and coming to a foreign country and like I said, to be welcomed so. It says a lot for the people here. After the war, he was a captain. It was Carl Carlson. And Dad was away much of my younger life. But when Dad come home, he would bring us gifts and from all over the world, and he was good. It was till later on in life when he was getting older and he didn't want the responsibility of lives because he had lost ships too, and he never lost a man, but through it all it played hectic with him. Maybe because of the wartime, I don't know. But he then quit being a captain and he went with Riverport Seafoods, and where for his remaining working, he was second engineer. He said that's about as much responsibility that he wanted. He looked at life as for living and being good, and what horrors laid behind him. And every time he looked at his body from being badly burnt, probably he, yes, thought of wartime, but my dad was not like that. He was very generous. He helped the poor people to make sure they had food and fuel to keep them warm in the winter. Not all, and was like that. I guess I'm one of the lucky ones, right? Many were, I don't know what you would call it, but they became harsh because Dad had a very good friend, Lauritz, and he would come to the house much, and I was a little child though, and later, Mr. Ostavo, he committed suicide. And just knowing some of the other ones, yes, they were harsh in bringing up the children. But where Dad wasn't home a lot, maybe he would have been harsh. He met my mom through the famous dances that was held here in Lunenburg, and my mom was from West Dublin, so her and her girlfriends would try to find a way to come to Lunenburg to go to these dances, and I can remember my mom saying how handsome all of them was. Some of my father's younger pictures, right? Yes, I too, I thought he was very handsome and damn dashing. Why I'm proud of my dad is because he became a Canadian, which he really loved being. He also, he told about the Norwegian traditions, what they would do, but he did not practice them, not in our home. It wasn't, because it was not the Canadian way. And also, Norwegian was not to be spoken in the home. There was many Norwegians that come to the home, but no, Dad would have it, no, you're in Canada, you are here, and you will speak English. My dad, he had gone after the war. He would go home with my mom for one visit, and they stayed for 6 weeks. And the only other time my dad had gone home was when my grandmother had passed away. Other than that, no, Dad did not go home, because in 1979 I was going over home, and I pleaded with Dad to come along with me, and because his brother was then back in Brandal, and same with Johanna, and so that, you know, it could be a reunion. And my dad said to me, I knocked around this world all my life, and I am not, he said, going no more. They kept in contact, you know, through letters, and the home where then the parents, my great grandparents stayed. Dad didn't want the house, and so he gave his portion to his sister to look after the parents, and yeah, so lives were separated through war and changing forever. I think now about my grandmother. She used to go when the ships arrive, right? And for if there was any mail, or even afterwards to see if Dad was on the ship, and she used to cry and then walk all the way home. And I think about her, what, you know, mother, what she had lost of her family, her children, never again to be how it was. I was always Dad's special little girl, and Dad was the ultimate in my world. I honor all of the Norwegians that served, and also for the Canadians too. But out of it, I am a product of Camp Norway.